Hey there, quirky people. I'm your host, Anna, and today we'll be looking at the ending of The Last of Us Episode 2. So far, we've had 2 amazing episodes that even the fans of the game have loved. This series is intense and full of gut-punching twists and turns that will leave you shocked and shattered. And one of those came in the second episode, which left us with a couple of questions. But before we move on, I'm going to issue a major spoiler warning for those who haven't watched the first 2 episodes or played the game. Although, even if you have played the game, this HBO adaptation gives you something different with regards to Tess. So you guys should also leave and come back to watch this video after seeing the 2 episodes. With that out of the way, let's start with the spoiler talk. Aussie actress Anna Torv portrayed Tess really well. And the reason I say played is because just like the Game of Thrones, The Last of Us also has a knack for making us fall in love with certain characters and then killing them off. The first one made us cry with the death of little Sarah. Now the second one ends with the inspiring demise of Teresa, aka Tess. And guess what? It is a little different from how it happened in the game, where after reaching the Capitol building, Joel and Ellie found out that Tess was infected, and she decided to stay and hold some soldiers back as her final sacrifice play. But the show changes things around by bringing in an army of the infected instead of the Fedra soldiers. She asked Joel to run away and save Ellie, where she'd buy them some time. But as she is ready to burn things down, her lighter stops working, and she just stands still as the infected zombies run after Ellie and Joel. But one of the infected notices her, and instead of running towards her to eat her flesh off, he just walks towards her very slowly. Right as she tries to get the lighter to work, he slowly kisses her to spread the cordyceps infection into her mouth. Now it's interesting to note that seeing humans around, zombies always run towards them to bite. That's rule number 1 in every zombie rulebook. But here, it happened very differently. And just at the last moment when all hope was lost, that lighter worked and incinerated all the infected. This altered demise of Tess was handled pretty well, as it added to the drama. The game didn't allow the players to sit and mourn her sacrifice as the players go on to kill the soldiers. But here, we get to experience the sadness of this inspiring sacrifice and sit on it for a week before the next episode arrives. The shock level and stakes become very high as the death of Tess gets valued properly. But at the same time, we saw something very different from other zombie movies and shows, which was the kiss. And guess what? Creators of the show, Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, have explained that horrific infected kiss in detail. While speaking with Variety, Mazin revealed why they chose to kill Tess with the kiss of death. He said, and I quote, "We were doing early research on how fungus appears in reality, and we had a really good template for what it looked like in the game. We wanted to go further and say, okay, what are the different forms and functions? I found this image that an artist had created of somebody that had become subsumed by fungus, and in their mouth there were mushrooms. We were already talking about tendrils coming out, and we were asking these philosophical questions. Why are infected people violent? If the point is to spread the fungus, why do they need to be violent? We landed that they don't. They're violent because we resist. But what if you don't? What does it look like if you just stand perfectly still and let them do this to you? Then we landed on this nightmare fuel. It's disturbing and it's violative. I think it's very primal in the way it invades your own body. To use an overused word, it's triggering. It's a remarkable combination of Neil's direction, Anna Torv's acting when there isn't obviously anything there, and our visual effects department doing this gorgeous work to make it all come together and feel real and terrible." Unquote. But that's not it. Neil Druckmann continued, and I quote, "Part of it was the deviation from the game, where Tess is killed by soldiers. We had a long conversation about what's more thematically appropriate for this episode, which is called Infected, and is about the threat of the outside. We've left the quarantine zone that led to this other version where she's giving an opening to escape to Joel and Ellie by blowing up a bunch of infected. Because we're cruel to the characters we love so much, it felt like she knows she's done for, and then the lighter doesn't work, and we take her all the way to the edge of horror before we finally give her an out." Unquote. The cordyceps fungi has one goal, and that is to spread the infection by any means necessary. And because the humans resist this infection, the infected have to use violent ways to bite off the living. Otherwise, you just have to submit to the cordyceps hive mind and your brain would become a part of it without any pain. Seeing how the infected won't be violent without resistance is a pretty nice and creepy element added in by the creatives. It's something that hasn't been seen so far in zombie stories. And these are the kind of things that also have fans of the game excited about the series. It will be interesting to see what other changes will be made in the show in the next 7 episodes. Until then, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for some more Last of Us videos because we've got a lot of them cooking. Goodbye, this is Anna signing off, and I'll see you in the next one.